What a beautiful day. Absolutely stunning day to go exploring South London. Part of South London that I don't know that well. I've walked through it a few times. Maybe there's lots of parts of today's walk that I don't know at all, including this bit here, as we leave Streatham Common station and embark on the Capital Ring. I'll tell you more about the Capital Ring if you don't know about it, but it's going to be a great day today. They always are on the Capital Ring. All the Capital Ring walks are fantastic that I've done so far, and yeah, this is perfect for me today. Let's get cracking though. I've got to follow the directions. And Streatham is a really ancient part of London. The name literally means street hamlet, Streatham, street hamlet. And there's a grant that dates from the late 7th century, where the land here was granted to Chertsey Abbey by Earlsfield, Bishop of London. Here's a cracking bit of signage here, metal signage telling us the Capital Ring is a 78-mile circular walk around inner London, promoted in 15 sections. And this is section 5, from Streatham Common to Wimbledon Park. And with a bit of luck, we'll carry on beyond that in the direction of Richmond. I do love a good underpass, followed by a decent alleyway in this case. I see the Capital Ring as being like the little sibling of the London Loop. The London Loop, 150 miles long, outer London, quite a commitment. Capital Ring, inner London, 78 miles, much less of a commitment, shorter sections, easier just to head out and do one on a whim, really. A bit like today. The Capital Ring is the one that most people actually go out and walk rather than the London Loop. London Loop's for more like hardcore walkers. And I'm not doing the Capital Ring in the way I've walked the London Loop, where I diligently try to do the whole thing, because so much of it is on other walks, is part of other walks. Pretty much everything on my side of London, on the east, is covered in other videos, and actually quite a bit of the north as well. But I think I did my first dedicated Capital Ring walk early 2020, where I walked from Richmond to Sudbury Hill. And then since then, I've done the sections from Crystal Palace to here, Streatham Common, and from Crystal Palace the other way to Grove Park. I've also walked it on the bits as well down towards Woolwich, that side, Thamesmead, etc. That's all in other videos as well. And a bit of today, actually, if I do carry on to Richmond, that's covered in other. So you can sort of see the Capital Ring is in places where you may already have walked. I've certainly, like I say, walked a lot of it, doing different walks, you know what I mean? But it's cracking. If you want to get started exploring London, it's one of the best things you can do, one of the best things you can do. Something to look up later is these gateposts here on Coiners Road. Must have belonged to some sort of large building of the past. Obviously, look, now you see these new apartments have been built here, but I wonder what was here previously. Wow, what a beauty. It'd be worth coming down here just to see this. This incredible mosque-like structure is just Streatham Pumping Station. Dates from 1888. This is genuinely one of the most kind of ornate pumping stations I've ever seen. Incredible. You can tell that the Victorians were so proud of their engineering achievements, they felt that the architecture should match it. And I collected a full set of these leaflets, which are guides to the Capital Ring, years ago, at least 20 years ago, from Islington Libraries when I lived over there. They're great. So that's where my collecting comes in very handy. And the houses down here at Coiners Road are enormous. You assume that they're divided into flats, and actually quite a few of them are quite run down. I mean, I know this is an extreme example, but this place is all shuttered up. It's interesting. Wow, what an enormous hulk that is. Streatham Methodist Church, built in 1900. It calls it hefty in the leaflet. It certainly is, isn't it? So we're carrying on up Ringingdale Road, having crossed Mitcham Lane. Of course, Mitcham is another one of those old Anglo-Saxon settlements, which is interesting in a way. A lot of ways we're walking through a Anglo-Saxon sort of country London today. We have the wonderful Tooting Beck Common over the other side there. Beck, of course, being St Mary de Beck or St Mary le Beck, a nunnery, an abbey in Normandy. So it tells you a bit about the heritage of Tooting, the way it was handed over to Norman abbeys. I think the settlements at Tooting, they go back a long, long way. I'm sorry, that was possibly the worst piece on the history of Tooting, Tooting Beck, Tooting Common and all of that. I did write about it in my book, This Other London, and I'll either read a bit of that here, drop that in, or I will use a bit of the audiobook. It's interesting the way that I've got to stand on my tiptoes to get any sunlight. That block is completely blocking it out, but yeah, I will fill in the, the information about Tooting Beck. Sorry.
William Morden's 1897 description of Tooting's swampy fields in The History of Tooting Gravney remains true in 2013. Morden writes that the name comes from the tribe of Totiagas. Another theory combines the name of the Celtic god Toot with ing, meaning meadow, making it Toots Meadow. Bell's 1926 chapter on Tooting focuses on its manorial records that stretch back to the early 1200s. They document the intimate transactions between the local people and the lord of the manor, a landholding that came complete with its own serfs. You can imagine little baldric-like blokes in hoods and jerkins with warty noses scrambling around on Tooting Common, picking up firewood and nuts, poking around for mushrooms. The Beck in Tooting comes from the Abbey of Beck in Normandy, which owned the land after the conquest. Now it's controlled by Wandsworth Council.
And there we have the fantastic Tooting Beck Lido over there, which the original swimming pool dates from around 1900 and it was rebuilt in the 1930s. And apparently it's one of the largest swimming pools in Europe. I did speak to the swimming club there when I was researching my book, This Other London. But there is a swimming club that swim here. I think they swim every single day. And they told me about breaking the ice on the pool to swim in the winter. Because at the time I spoke to them, it wasn't heated. I don't know if it is now. I'm not sure we'll make it to Richmond Bridge today, 11.5 miles. It's midday now, I think. So we might not quite do that. Heading across Tooting Common. And I did write in This Other London about how absolutely abundant common land is in South London, and I came up with a total amount. I added it all up from looking up the acreage of each common, and there's loads around here. So the common land is still alive and well in South London, and I think I have a memory of talking about exactly the same thing the last time I walked the Capital Ring. And we are so lucky in London to have some fantastic Lidos, some fantastic open air swimming pools still remaining. I know we've lost so many and that's what we tend to focus on, but you know, we've got, how many are there? You might have to help me out in the comments. We've got, I mean, there's Tooting Lido here, there's Brockwell Lido also in South London, also there's that Southwark, this is Lambeth, no, that's also Lambeth as well. Then what, we've got London Fields Lido, there's the one on Hampstead Heath at the bottom there at Gospel Oak, that's 4. I think there's always, isn't there one in Haringey, in Crouch End Lido. So obviously there were many more once upon a time. Ruislip Lido, I think Ruislip Lido is more of a lake, isn't it? I know there were, but I think we're lucky to have them. I think they're really wonderful things where you can go and swim in the open air. Covent Garden, that's the one I used to go to. Again, that also wasn't heated. It was pretty chilly. I used to swim there in the winter many, many years ago. So they're great features and they have really active communities that use them regularly. I know people that go up to Gospel Lake every morning and swim there before then going to work. So yeah, it's great. Obviously we wish the Whips Cross Lido on the edge of Epping Forest was still there, but what a majestic heron here looking over his lake. Feels like he's the custodian of this this little tract of water, or it's quite a large tract of water. A really beautiful lake. What a glorious old oak tree here. Stories that could tell. Rook or a crow? Parliament of Crows. That must be a rook, although there are two others nearby. Apparently you should always be kind to corvids. I think you should always be kind to all animals, all birds, but corvids remember individual people, give them little names, apparently. And we've got a magpie over here. I wonder how the magpies get on with the crows. So the refreshment hut here dates from 1898 and was built in an arts and crafts style. There's a little plaque on the side there telling the story of the various owners of the cafe. It's really delightful. I'm not stopping though. I got the time wrong earlier. It's not 12, it's about 11:30. There really are some fantastic, majestic trees here on Tooting Common. Really stunning. Leaving Tooting Common behind now. I will say the Capital Ring is really well waymarked. I've done sections of it before without actually using the maps at all. You walk a very short distance along Bedford Hill, which I always associate with southwest London. I think over the years I knew people that lived along here, and also the Bedford pub where I did stand up. 2002 maybe? Ritherden Road here. Another very grand street it is, isn't it? Very tall, fine houses. Cloudsdale Road now. This is a fine bit of civic architecture here. Balham Leisure Centre opened as Balham Swimming Baths by the Metropolitan Borough of Wandsworth in 1914. Now we're going down Earlsfield Road, Balham. We've had Streatham, Tooting, Balham, and we'll end in Wimbledon. Well, we'll end in Wimbledon. We'll carry on through Wimbledon, but this section ends in Wimbledon. Great mansion blocks here, Elmfield Mansions in Elmfield Road that date from 1897. Really lovely. It's always great to pass the absolutely majestic, huge Duquesne Court. I think when it was built in the 1930s, I think it was Europe's largest purpose-built apartment block, I believe. There are so many wonderful stories connected to Duquesne Court. The idea that it was a haven for German spies in the 30s, and actually during the war there's a great Radio 4 documentary that actually talks all about it. The mayor of Balham, the self-appointed mayor of Balham, the great comedian Arthur Smith, lived here, possibly still does live here, and he used to do his radio show from here for a while, Arthur Smith's Comedy Club, which I appeared on when it was recorded in a BBC studio, not in Duquesne Court. Wonderful place, full of stories. It's in my book, This Other London. And seeing Duquesne Court makes me realise here we're just going to cross over Roman Stained Street, one of the great Roman roads. I walked this section of it last year, was it, or the year before, and I'll link to that below. And now we go down one side of Duquesne Court, Balham Park Road, and I've never been along here, I don't think. Not that I remember anyway. Sometimes you get accidental framing. I was just tweaking my camera, so I put it down here, and then look, I quite like that shot. That's not what I want to talk about. Yeah, I've reached the point now where I've done so many of these, the videos. There's so many of the videos. I don't know the exact number. But then I've also done loads of walks that I haven't videoed. Like I did loads of walks for my book, This Other London. Okay, there's 10 chapters, so maybe there's 10 walks, but then all the walks I've done for my blog, that I didn't, and in the end you actually do, sometimes you don't realise where you are, particularly if you're doing a river walk or a Lost River walk. So this is where I'm thinking, I know I'm going to end up crossing the Wandle. Later I've walked the Wandle. And then there was a time I walked the Norbury Brook. That ended at Streatham, so that was behind me. But even so, you know what I mean? You kind of lose your bearing sometimes when your focus isn't on the places. So, that's what I mean when I think, haven't I walked here before? Also, there's times you've just gone here because you're visiting somebody, you're going to a venue or a thing, you're looking at a particular building. That's what it's like. That's why I love it. This alleyway here is taking us in the direction of Wandsworth Common. What a fine looking old pub that is. The Hope. Definitely Victorian, if not older. Really, really wonderful Wandsworth Common. There's a very memorable scene in Patrick Keeler's amazing film London, where on one of his walks, he and Robinson cross Wandsworth Common on the morning when there's been an IRA bombing. This would have been in 1992. I think it was on the election day, I believe, the general election of 1992. That's an incredible film if you've not seen it before. It's fantastic. And I think, from memory, the bomb went off near the railway line, which is where I'm about to walk. I followed the route of that walk in Keeler's film for a video that I made. I think it was 2018 or 2019. As before, I will link to that below. It's actually a little bit strange to think back that in the early years of my time in London, I came here in '89, like IRA bombings were a thing in London. I was near 2 or 3 of them in my time, so they weren't just things I read about. The Bishopsgate bomb knocked me out of bed. I worked in a theatre in the West End when there were bombs left in the bins outside the theatre, and we had to stay inside whilst they were dealt with, however they were dealt with. And what's the pub? The Sussex pub in the West End. Oh, we weren't there. We'd been in the Sussex pub the night there was a bomb left in a cubicle there, that pub. That's 3 off the top of my head, but there were, it was a thing, bomb scares and evacuations and that. It wasn't, it was just a part of life in London in those years. And here we have another wonderful little lake. Look at this, so serene. I really just felt like a South London walk today. Just felt that's what I needed. I always really enjoyed them. They're not ever what I expected them to be. I find South London walks really calming and relaxing. Loads of really wonderful parks and open spaces and quiet kind of streets as well, suburban high streets. Obviously the main roads are a horror show, but aren't they everywhere? This is the path ahead. I almost certainly would have gone the wrong way here without the signposts. That lovely looking building over there is the Skylark Cafe, but it is formerly, or it was formerly, Neil's Farm, and I can see some heritage information over there, so I shall go and find out more. It tells us a little bit about Neil's Farm here, which was on land leased from the Royal Victoria Patriotic Asylum. It also tells us how the size of the common was reduced from 400 acres to 177, but it did get as low as 151 acres in the mid-19th century. The land was originally owned by Earl Spencer, and it became common land. It has suddenly become so bleak and grey, hasn't it? It's only 1 p.m. You'd think it was just before sunset. That's a really fine old pub over there, isn't it? The County Arms, the Young's pub. Tweedy must have done a Wandsworth pubs video, surely. If not, Tweedy, get yourself down here, mate. It's cracking by the looks of it. That's a dark, grim sight there, isn't it? Wandsworth Prison, HMP Wandsworth. Built in the 1850s as the Surrey House of Correction. This is where Oscar Wilde was imprisoned in 1895. It's where the great train robber Ronnie Biggs was banged up, and also where he escaped from. It's also where Derek Bentley was wrongfully hung for the murder of a policeman in 1953. I also feel like it's the setting for the sitcom Porridge, isn't it? Ronnie Barker. I feel like that's correct. Now along Magdalen Road, redolent of Mary and all that. And it's another street of fine houses, isn't it? So going down Magdalen Road now, I realised that I did pass this way with Wandsworth Cemetery to my right when I did one of the walks from Keeler's film London, where I plotted out the route that the characters took on their first walk, their first expedition. Not only is Keeler's film a great London film, I think it's close to being a perfect film. I've seen it so many times. But what I learned from plotting out the route from watching the film, there are a number of expeditions. Apologies for not knowing this off the top of my head. I'll put the information on the screen. I think there's something like 4 expeditions the characters take, both unseen. It's all just static shots of scenes in London. Is that obviously Keeler didn't do walks. It was filmed on, I think it was filmed on 35mm, so it was a big camera and a tripod. It was filmed on film, and yeah, naturally they didn't walk around lugging this kit. So when you do the walk, it seems quite different. He obviously did it in a car and drove to each location to shoot those static shots. Amazing film. But doing the walk in a way was interesting because, you know, the characters skip huge, they leap huge distances between the points they talk about. So it's a walk that isn't a walk, you know, to repurpose the Ian Sinclair line. The walk is the walk. Well, that is a walk that wasn't really a walk in the film. I wonder if Keeler ever actually did it as a walk, though, just for the sake of writing it. I'm not sure. Probably did. He probably did. This is a really wonderful building that I'm going to call Art Deco, even if it isn't. Earlsfield Public Library, dating from 1926. Wow. It's the time of year to get onto the turkey feast sandwiches. Sainsbury's meal deal, very good value, £3.95. And we passed briefly through Earlsfield, and I feel like I've been here on a few walks. Definitely the Wandle walk, almost certainly the Keeler walk, and a couple of others as well. Turn left by the Wandle pub, which indicates as well that we're going to cross the Wandle just up here. It's a lovely little bridge, if memory serves me right. And here it is, the Wandle. The wandering, meandering Wandle. What a wonderful river that is. I walked it a few years ago with the brilliant Professor Kate Spencer. Link to that video below. Interestingly, this looks like it might be a tributary of the Wandle. Shall have to look that up. And also what's interesting is in the leaflet I've got, the Capital Ring leaflet I've got, which is at least 20 years old, it talks about on the left here there being an industrial estate. But as you can see now, we have a new apartment block. So this was obviously built on the site of the industrial estate. Up along Hazelmere Avenue, which is spelt as in the place in Surrey rather than the place in Buckinghamshire. And to our left, we have Dawlish Avenue, which is a place in Devon. Dansford Road Recreation Park, you know, quite functional. Not that I'm reviewing it or anything. This hasn't become like a rate my takeaway for public parks. Well, that's quite an intriguing idea, isn't it? Hazelnut flavoured Kit Kat as part of the meal deal. I thought, you know, why not? Live dangerously. I really love that little green industrial unit over there. That style of industrial architecture, I find it really, it does something to me. It just reminds me of a particular moment in time. And I associate it with kind of like things where sort of underground wartime activity took place. Secret weapons were developed in little units like that, little nondescript places. Obviously I'm getting overly carried away. Up this alleyway here. I do love a good suburban alleyway. Turning now into Durnsford Road, and this is coming to the end of walk number 5. Not the end of our walk, but the end of that particular walk on the Capital Ring. Coming into Wimbledon Park. I don't think I've seen this part of Wimbledon before. It seems quite different to what I anticipated. Wimbledon Park station here. That's where walk 5 ends, but to carry on for walk 6, you just keep going on the road. And it's funny being in the SW19 postcode. There was a famous series of novels, I remember in the early 90s, you saw them in all the second-hand bookshops. I can't remember the author's name. I feel like it's Nigel somebody, probably someone really famous, but that's what I'm thinking of whenever I see SW19. So we've changed maps now into this one for walk 6, Wimbledon Park to Richmond Bridge, which would link me up with the section that I did from there up to Sudbury Hill, but I don't think we'll make it to Richmond Bridge in the hour and a half of daylight. You have to remember, filming a walk takes at least 2 to 3 times the amount of time it takes to walk it normally. And today I'm walking very slowly. Wimbledon Park dates from the 16th century, when it was the grounds of the Grand Manor House, and it was used for deer hunting and hawking. And then it was re-landscaped by the famous Lancelot Capability Brown in the 18th century, and I think that landscaping is still evident today. On the far side of the park is the famous All England Tennis Club, home of the famous Wimbledon tennis thing. The thing that everyone thinks of when you think of Wimbledon, you think of tennis, whereas really you should be thinking of Wandles. Come on. Wow, what a beautiful, huge lake here. Really stunning, isn't it? That's our 3rd lake of the day. Who'd have thought? There was a real abundance of Christmas trees on this walk day. It would have been a great time to pick up a Christmas tree if you could bear to carry it for several miles afterwards. Right, let's crack on towards Wimbledon Common and look out for the Wombles. There you go, there's the All England Club. I can just see the sign there for number 1 court. I've never actually ever been to the tennis at Wimbledon. No, I've not ever been that interested in it. Well, I did many years ago, but I haven't been interested in it for a long time. I don't even watch it on the TV, to be honest with you. Down the leafy Bathgate Road. And now we turn into Queensmere Road, which is our approach to Wimbledon Common. And this part is completely new to me, so it's always great to fill in your map of London. What is that strange Gothic pile over there? Now we're on to Wimbledon Common and Putney Heath. I think this side here is the Putney Heath end. This is a really magnificent landscape and the perfect time of day to be doing it, the last 45-50 minutes of light. I made a dedicated Wimbledon Common video a few years ago where I visit the site known as Caesar's Camp. Definitely an Iron Age site. Whether it has anything to do with Julius Caesar or not, I think there's some discussion. And this is another reminder of just how blessed we are with open spaces in London. It is such a green city, incredibly green. You really see that when you fly over it in a plane. And here it is, probably the highlight, the gem of today's walk. Wimbledon Windmill, the last windmill of its type in the country. I think it's a hollow post flour mill, if I remember correctly. Built in 1817. It wasn't in commission for that long really. I think it was out of commission by 1847. Just 30, 40 year history. It's been restored, and I think that's where there's a cafe now. It's used as the centre for the conservation efforts on Wimbledon Common, which are very important. What a majestic tree that is. I was about to say oak tree, and then I became a little less certain it is an oak tree. But it's certainly a very old, majestic tree. I wonder if it remembers the English Civil War activities which took place here. This fine clubhouse here is for the London Scottish Golf Club, established in 1865. Wonderful. The Capitol Ring will take us down through these wonderful woods. I would say they're beech trees down here somewhere, just going by the colour of the leaves. Really beautiful. This walk was exactly what I needed today. I needed to get out somewhere and just walk a path or a trail, but I wanted to feel swaddled within London, to feel like I'm still sort of protected by the city, if that makes sense, rather than go outside of London. Yeah, it's been perfect. This is so beautiful down here. Now this, what looks like a ditch to the left here, and it probably most certainly is a ditch, I'd say, but it reminded me that Beverley Brook runs along or through Wimbledon Common. Aside from being a glorious little river, readers of the Ben Aronovich books, The Rivers of London series, will know Beverley Brook is a key character. The lake here appears to have dried up. I wonder if this part of some sort of managed work. And the path now takes us back up the wood towards the golf course. So it may take us through Caesar's camp, which would be fantastic. And this is always my favourite time of a walk, this last bit leading up to sunset. Beautiful. The directions are a bit confusing, but I have seen mention of the Beverley Brook, so that's encouraging. I think it's down here on the left. I didn't go very far down that other path before realising it kind of felt wrong, and there was mention of a bench going down the hill, so I realised I took the wrong fork, but I didn't go very far. I've come back, quite proud of myself for that. This is now definitely the right way, and we're coming towards the end of today's walk, I think. Look at this guy. What a tree. What a tree. Along a very muddy track now towards the Roehampton Road. Still haven't seen the Beverley Brook. Where's the Beverley Brook? Wow, here she is. Here's Bev. Here's the Beverley Brook. And that was the that was the other time I came to Earlsfield station, of course. It was when I walked the Beverley Brook during London Rivers Week. That was such a bucolic walk. I remember it now. Wow. Such a beautiful river. That's one of my favourite kind of scenic London walks, the Beverley Brook. So the path goes alongside the Beverley Brook. I think we're going to get locked out of Richmond Park. But you never know. Maybe they don't shut it at sunset. Maybe they keep the gates open longer. Well, the Capitol Ring leaves the Beverley Brook here. I'm getting really strong déjà vu now. Maybe the Beverley Brook walk follows the Capitol Ring at this point. Interesting. Okay, someone's going to have to tell me what's going on here. Look, pedestrian crossing, halfway up. Well, halfway up, look, all the way up there, inside a park. This is obviously, look, I have to reach up to touch it. What is that about? Is it for people riding horses? Same here. I think it is for people riding horses. How clever. So it is about to get dark, but you can enter the park. It seems like. So all he's saying here is don't enter the park at night time between 8 and 7:30 because they are culling the deer at night time for 6 weeks from the start of November. So at this point, because it's about to get dark, I'm not going to diligently follow the Capitol Ring. I'm going to follow the principle of the Capitol Ring, and I'm going to take the most direct path through Richmond Park. I've done it at night time before. It's fine, as long as, like I say, you're not here when they're shooting. The deer cull can seem a bit cruel because they're cute, and it's unpleasant when you do it like I am now. When I walk through here, and I'll see some deer, and I'll know that some of those deer won't make it to the morning, which is a bit sad, isn't it? But the reality is that the deer cull is a necessary reality of the deer not having any natural predators anymore, which really messes with the natural order of things, if you know what I mean. Like, I think the older stags just dominate then, and the population eventually dwindles because the younger stags don't get to mate, and it really messes with the deer population, and before you know it, you know, I guess there are no deer anymore. So I don't think, you know, they're not shooting Bambi out here. I think they're going for the older male deers. And I've got a couple of videos where I passed through Richmond Park during daytime. It is a majestic park. I think it is the UK's largest public park, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I won't dwell too much to get too much footage, because once it's pitch black, I won't be able to really film a lot. It's so peaceful. This is definitely the best part of the day now. And there they are. Small herd of deer there. So I've come off the road up into the top of this ridge here, and I have found myself on the Capitol Ring path. You won't see it very well, but there's the way marker. So we could be about to get a lovely sunset. And it's so beautiful to be up here. Such a privilege at this time of the day. I'm not sure you'll be able to see, but there's a big herd of deer here, and at least one old stag there. He's such a majestic beast, isn't he? Look at him. Well, hopefully he's one of the younger ones, and he'll be spared the cull. Hope that old fella makes it through the night. Good luck, old boy. And here's another stag crossing the path. And you see the stag stood there looking at you, antlers raised. He looks like a god, doesn't he? The great god Pan. Wow, look at the sunset captured by the lake. Stunning. Wow, the view up here is stunning. Unfortunately, it won't really come out on my camera. So I'm just going to walk down here, down Sawyer's Hill. I think I can see a gate ahead, although there's certainly one at the bottom of Sawyer's Hill. And then we'll walk into Richmond Town Centre. We may as well finish at the bridge where this section ends. I have a feeling that the route of the Capitol Ring takes Star and Garter Hill, but in the pitch black I don't see the value of that. I'm going to take the most direct route to Richmond Bridge, which is straight down Richmond Hill. Wow, that's a famously stunning view from up here on Richmond Hill. Really beautiful. And I know it's pitch black, but there's a bend in the River Thames here, and I think it's that shot is in Patrick Keeler's film London. He's heading to Strawberry Hill, which was home of Horace Walpole, who was a Gothic author. I think is he considered to be the inventor of Gothic literature? Maybe, maybe not. Look at, talking of Gothic, look at this tower over here. Isn't that really romantic? Doesn't the Roebuck look beautiful, all lit up there? Of course, it must have one of the best pub views in London, mustn't it? Wow. If I were to stop now, that would be the end. I need to keep going. I can't go for a pint until my walk is done. Richmond's always really lovely and Christmassy. This time of year it's really lovely. Well, it's lovely all times of year, to be honest with you. And I don't think I've been here since last Christmas. I really need to make a Virginia Woolf pilgrimage at some point. So here we are on Richmond Bridge, where walk 6 ends and walk 7 begins. And I remember setting off from here, I think it was February 2020. Of course, we all know what happened about 2 or 3 weeks later. Wow, what a great walk. Well, let me try and get a bit more of that light. Well, thank you so much for joining me on that fantastic walk on the Capital Ring, exploring South London. They're always great walks. They're always great walks, Capital Ring walks. Like the London Loop, to be honest with you. I miss the London Loop, so today was a really lovely kind of compensation. There's a bus right behind me, getting all over my audio. So thanks once again to my supporters on Patreon, the YouTube members, yourselves for coming and watching these videos. And yeah, signing off now. I'm going to go and find a pub. There's a pub I usually go to down here. It's the one where it floods, I think. I think that's the one I'm going to go to. What do you think? What is your favourite Richmond pub? Anyway, so I look forward to seeing you on the next walk, wherever that may be. Cue my dad playing his harmonica.
It's over the meadow, over the stream. It's where I am going and where I have been. It's been a long day now, it's time for a beer. And now for home, of course I must steer. It's over the meadow, over the stream. I hope you are pleased with what you have seen.